fear of losing what you had accumulated. So then it was a separation anxiety, separating you from what you own, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so that separation anxiety then created what in your mind?
Depression, stress.
Stress and depression. What else?
Imbalance.
Imbalance.
I can make a very long list.
And then what did that create?
Well, unhealth.
So you started to sublimate. Since you couldn't make up your mind, did you want to give up voluntarily the thing that was causing you the stress? So part of it was the ego needing to hold on to something, because part of your identity came from what you purchased, right?
Sure.
Because you were thinking you'd feel better about yourself, maybe others would feel better about you if you could show that what you owned, you deserved. Because we don't buy something because we don't feel we deserve it. We buy it because we feel we do deserve it. Why do you think people want to live in one neighborhood where the price of real estate may be 5 times higher than a different neighborhood, even though they're both okay neighborhoods? It's perception of value, right? The perception of value on Fifth Avenue is different than on West End Avenue. Now, what's the difference between Fifth Avenue and West End Avenue? There's no difference. No difference, right? Apartment on Fifth Avenue and apartment on West End Avenue are identical. But West End Avenue, six-room apartment will run you about, to buy one, about right now, $800,000 to $1 million. On Park Avenue or Fifth Avenue, it'll run you about $1.5 to $3 million. Both nice neighborhoods, but what a difference in price. Perception. Perception. Joining one tennis club versus a different, one gym versus a different gym. They both got exercise equipment. They both have tennis balls. Why would you pay so much more for one and not the other? Perception. Now, did it ever occur to you that something works because there's a natural connection of energy because there's no conflict? It's where you have the conflict that you're not going to have the connection. Now, once you realize where there is conflict, then you have to make a choice. Do you want to continue to honor the conflict, or do you want to disengage from the conflict? When you start taking a careful and honest look at where there's conflict in your life, you'll see why there's imbalance in your life. And that imbalance can be corrected. You can change and correct any imbalance if you choose to. But it may mean that when you correct something, you go through a period of discomfort, change that is separation anxiety. All that can come from that effort. So you got to be willing to say, I'm willing to go through some suffering to stop my suffering. Do you understand what I'm saying? The idea that we just change and everything's cool, no problem, no hassle, I'm on the next thing. Wrong. It doesn't happen that way. Because look at it like this. You are with people now in your life, or have been in the past, where you needed each other at that moment. And that was good, but do you need the same person for the same reason today that you did then? And if you don't, then what do you have to associate with that person? What if you're coming out of a bad relationship where you were not honored and you were taken advantage of? The likelihood is you're going to meet someone else who also is in a similar situation, so you have something that connects you, some mutual compassion for the things you've suffered for. So now you're in this relationship with this person because you're both coming out of relationships, and then in about 6 months you realize, you've gotten back on your feet, you're more self-actualized, you feel good about yourself, you're getting into your groove, and that person is still back on suffering. Well, now you don't have the same things to associate with. You're saying, okay, time to quit your grieving, let's get on, new day, let's have closure. And they're not willing to close. And you have. What's that going to do to your relating? Conflict. What? Huh? Imbalance. That's right. Immediately you took what at one time was a balanced relationship, you were both suffering, and now there is an imbalance. See what I'm saying? Look for the imbalance in everything in your life, and there's where you'll find your conflict. Now, once you realize where that imbalance is, do you honor the imbalance or do you go forward with your life? What if you thought of it like this? What if you thought that life was merely a series of passages? Just passages. And you never knew how long a passage would last. But you knew that all passages end. Are we clear on that? You're a parent, but not forever. Right? There comes a time when the dawdling and the loving and the cooing and the cuddling and the nurturing give way to the teaching, instructing, which gives way to the guidance and listening, which gives way to being a kind of distant caretaker. But you still want to, have the other associations, but that passage is gone. We can't go back and recreate passages. You can't. Nothing in life that's ever done can ever be undone. Everything that's ever been said or felt or smelt or tasted or done to us or from us to someone else can never be changed. You can never change reality. It is there for all time. You can only change how you want to feel about it. Do you understand that? So let's stop the idea that we can change something by apologizing for it, making an excuse for it. It doesn't change what was done. All it does is change how we want to feel about it or how we're hoping someone else can feel about it. And by changing our perception of something, it no longer has the same significance in our life or someone else's. That's why it's so important to think before you think. Stop and ask yourself, what could be the consequence of what I'm about to do? Not only to myself, but to others. Because that's going to stand forever, the consequence of your action. If you realize that there's a silent witness, if there was a silent witness to every deed, every act, would you do things differently? And so you should never do something that you're not willing to take full responsibility for. And then it suddenly changes how you think about things. So that's what we want to do, and that's how you get from here to there. Being conscious in your focus. Don't go through life focused but on one thing and forgetting everything else around you. That's why we can seem like we've got our act together, because we do something very well, because we've focused on it. We've mastered it. But everything else around us just is kind of disjointed and, at loose ends. I was invited to go out on a date with this woman, and we were supposed to meet at 6 o'clock to go for a walk. And she was late, and she calls me, and she says, I'm late, I'm running late, meet me over at my place. Now, I'd met this person twice, and she's always beautifully dressed, well-groomed. And I buzzed, and she said, come on up, and I went up. The place was a pigsty. I mean, just filthy, dirty, and clothes on the floor, and underwear on the sink, and just, and you know how you, on the mirror, all that floss off your teeth, little speckles, all this crap. And was it my place? It was your wife. She said you were kind of an open dude. What do I know? But I mean, the place was really, and she wasn't aware, that I was looking at this thing. There was even that dirty smell in it. You know how places have a dirty smell? And yet, she came in and she was all dressed nice. You know what that told me? It told me something. It told me that what I'm seeing, be careful, because there's a lot of garbage in her life. And you know what happens? People project the best they want and can to us in a given moment because they want us to embrace them, accept them, love them, care for them, trust them, whatever the relationship might be. But what about what you don't know? Because that gets us to point 2 in the idea that life is a series of passages, and people are there to assist us.